So we want to welcome Toni Shiloh to the show. She is a Christian fiction author. I think all of her books are Christian fiction, but if that's not the case, she will let us know. And so, Toni, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for being here.
Now you have a new well, your newest book came out a couple of months ago called A Run at Love.
Yes,
And you look like you have the same um, is is your shelving behind you virtual or is it actual shelves?
it's virtual.
Oh, okay. Because it looks like a similar is that your shelf though behind you?
No,
Is this is
it's
not
not.
okay. Okay, because I was gonna say it looks like you have a lot extra copies of your own books again behind you, like the previous guest did. But um tell us about your new book, A Run at Love, and do you have a copy of it?
I do. Right
Okay.
here.
All right. A
Um,
Run at Love. Can you hold it up a little while longer just so we can see it? And all the
sure.
way up so we can see the bottom too. Okay, that's colorful. I like the art.
Yeah, so it's actually the second book in my Love in the Spotlight series. Basically, each couple is in the spotlight. So in A Run at Love, you meet Piper McKinney and Tucker Hell, who Piper McKinney is a transracial adoptee. Her parents are Caucasian. She grew up in horse country, um, and she wants to own a horse that goes all the way to the Kentucky Derby. And her best friend is Tucker Hell. He's a horse trainer, and he agrees to train her horse. So it's a friends to lovers trope, but it's also, about identity. And as you mentioned, I write Christian fiction, so there's faith arc that goes on as well. Um, and I don't want to give it all away, but
No.
there's plot twist that puts them in the spotlight, and they have to arise through challenges that get thrown at them.
Okay. It's not a lot of books that feature horse trading or training or
Yeah, what gave you that idea? Is that something that you have an interest in personally?
Actually, no. Piper just came into my mind that way. I saw her riding a horse. I knew instinctively she was in Kentucky. And so it was a matter of figuring out how she got there. Because, like you said, there's not a lot of Kentucky Derby books. Definitely not a lot where the African American is like the main feature or the
right.
owner of the horse. So I just kind of wanted to explore that and um, put representation there where you don't often see it.
Love that.
Yeah.
And I think it
So
opens people's eyes up to something new.
Exactly.
yeah. So did you have to study horses and race horse racing and horse training to write the book, or did you just basically use your imagination?
Oh no, I definitely have to study it. I knew nothing about horses. I mean, my like one horse encounter was probably when I was like 3 years old, and who can remember that? So I did a lot of research. I talked to someone who actually owns a partial percentage in a racehorse. She was able to read my rough draft and tell me, yes, your research was correct, or change things here and there. Um, but it was really difficult subject for me, just because I was so ignorant in all the ways of horses.
Well, it was something you challenged yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
When it came into your mind, then you had to fill in the blanks, so to speak.
Yes.
So you had your characters. Now, the transracial adoption angle. Do you have an interest in that? What made you use that as your one of your plot twists or
Um,
character development in your character development?
Yeah, personally, I've always been interested in adoption. I'm not sure if I'll ever get to fulfill that dream. So it was nice to look at it in a book world and book setting. But I also know a few authors that I've become friends with who they have they've been involved in transracial adoptions. So I got to pick their brain and ask them, like the hard questions. Um, they were really nice and accommodating. Being authors, they know we like ask those intrusive questions like, what's it like? Do people stare at you? And then I try to listen to some podcasts as well, just to hear from the adoptees' point of view, what it was like in a transracial household. So it definitely made for an interesting plot, um, because it's part of Piper's, exploration of her identity as who is she since she grew up in a predominantly white area. And she's, was born in Africa but raised in America. Um, is she, who her DNA is? Is she, subject of her surroundings? All of that was fun to explore because I feel like anyone can identify with that even if they haven't exactly been in that situation.
We had an author on the show that wrote a book about she was adopted by white people. And but I can't remember her name. I want to say Shannon Gibney, but I might have the wrong name. But she had a very interesting story because she said people, I think she was given up for adoption, but people assumed that people would tell her, aren't you glad that your growing up is, you have more privileges and had more affluence compared to what it could have been. But she said she wouldn't know what it would have been because she only knows what she grew up in. So she said people would assume that she knew what her life would have been like. And I think I don't want to, I think her actual birth parents or birth mother was in a poverty. It was a challenging upbringing. It would have been a challenging upbringing. So, but she said she didn't know anything about that. So all she knows is what she experienced growing up. And
Mm.
it was challenging because she said people would see her and see her parents and they would be confused. It was challenging. That's what she said. I need to go back and find out who that was. We're getting close to 700 guests that we've had on the show in
Wow.
4 years. So yeah, so I know a lot of them by name, just from memory, but it's like a library in my brain. It's hard to recall them all. But I go back and create reels of the interviews, like a 2 minutes of them, and repost them, and that helped bring them back to my memory a lot of times. But it's a lot of people we've talked
Yeah.
to.
Mhm.
700 is amazing.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is. We're not quite there. We're like at 670, I think, something like that. So,
Well,
but
the good thing is it opens our eyes to amazing authors. We get to meet so many new people, such as yourself.
mhm.
Right. You
Yes,
guys kind of have the best job, right?
yeah, and I think you came across our radar. You, new books you have, the new book that you released. When the new books circulate, we see them, and well, sometimes we'll invite people on if it sounds like it's a subject that people might want to know, or especially if the person has a body of work, because we like to bring people on that have a career in writing. And so, how many books have you published so far?
So I'm at 29.
20. And I'm
Wonderful.
almost. Are you surprised, Rhonda, at how many people have like dozens of books?
Now,
I,
I'm not surprised because, there
it's
are
a
so many
lot of
people.
people.
No, there's so many people who are writing now and they're like really pouring into the pool of literature. I'm always surprised at the amount of time that people have to write these books.
Yeah, that too. I, I'm just, well, it surprises me when I learn about somebody new that I didn't really know about, and they've written like dozens of books, because we pride ourselves on keeping our ear to the ground, which we do, because we're the platform of record for African American literature. That's our moniker. But there's lots of people, and there's lots more. There's always more people that have been writing books for years and years and years, or just getting started, and they're prolific.
Yes.
Mhm.
And speaking of books, I believe you have the Christmas Catch is coming out next month, right? September
Yes,
24th.
it is. Yep, I
That's
can't wait for that
awesome.
one.
And it says it's also going to be available in Target, so we can find this book everywhere, basically.
Yes, I'm really excited. This will be my third book that's been released in Target, and so A Run It Love is actually in Target as well.
Okay. And
Okay,
do you
so it's going to be physically in Target. We're not talking Target.com, but we're talking physically. I can
on the
walk into
shelf?
Target and get the book. It'll be on the shelf.
Yes.
That's huge.
Oh, definitely. I don't know. It's one of those things where you're like, my book is in Target. It feels really surreal to walk in there and see it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
some authors,
congratulations.
they
Thank
go in
you.
the store and then they'll find their book and they post the pictures on Instagram or Facebook. That's exciting to, and some people see their books in airports, like, they go to
Yes.
the airport and
Now,
then
see,
see their
that's
book
what
in
I
the
like,
picture. Yeah,
being
that
able to see your book in an airport.
airport.
Because
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
there are people buying books at the airport. You know, you're going to
Mhm.
take that long trip and you need a book. And
Yeah,
so I love watching people go into the airport bookstores.
Oh, I always go to the airport bookstores just to see like what do they have, anything interesting. Just
Yes.
never know what you're gonna find.
yeah. Now, are all of your books in the Christian fiction category, the genre?
They they are.
Okay, so do you run out of ideas on, or how do you continue to come up with ideas that are faith-based, that are, the angle is faith-based? Like, what
Um,
do you use do you start with that when you write it, or do you start with the people and the storyline and then take the faith part and insert it?
that's a great question. I definitely do not run out of ideas. My brain is always thinking. So I usually have like a little running file I keep of any ideas if I know I can't work on it right away. And then usually I do characters first. I like to
Yeah.
know like who they are, where they came from, what their faith is like, their parents, all of those things that make them them. And then I kind of let them tell the story. Um, but it's helpful to know like all that information about them. Um, I don't know, it's just the way my brain works. Once I know
Yeah.
them, then I can actually tell the story.
Yeah, I love doing character profiles. Get to know them before you know their story, And then I usually tell my clients, it's about, those intricacies, those little small things you don't think about because you can weave them throughout the story. And
Mhm.
sometimes those intricacies can tell the story better than the narration can.
Definitely, because I'm a pantser, meaning I don't plot, and I'm more often surprised by what pops up for my characters than if I had plotted it and had, the storyline fixed in my mind of what would happen. But when you let, their quirks come out, their
Yes.
habits, they start telling you about like, things that might have wounded them as a child, and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense of why you are the way you are now. Um, it's
Yeah.
like those all add up and it makes the story a lot interesting, all right?
Yeah. Now I can't say that I'm a total pantser. But I'm not a total planner either. I mean, I like to at least know where the story's going, but then when I start writing, if my character decides to take me there or take me there, I'm not going to say no, I'm not doing it because I have to go here. So
Right.
I'm going to let the character take me, but I at least want to have an idea of where the character's going.
Well, I feel
And
like
for,
writing romance, I know what the end is. It's a happily ever after.
That's true.
How they get there is the whole mystery.
okay, so are your books, what, I want to back up a minute. For those who may not know what pantser is, uh, it's a term for authors, for writers, that this is my interpretation. And Rhonda and Toni, you all can, if you have a different interpretation, then feel free to input. But it's kind of like going by the seat of your pants. I am more of a pantser. I know how my story is going to start. I know who my main character is going to be. And I kind of sort of know the end, maybe. But how they get from the beginning to the end, it it develops as I'm writing. I can't like an outline to me, it would stifle my writing process if I had like this hard. Now I do an outline when I write nonfiction, like if I'm writing a how-to book or, a book that's on a particular factual topic, then I have an outline because the outline is basically the chapters. But when I write fiction, I'm a pantser. Now, is
Yeah.
that your interpretation, Rhonda, you and Toni?
Well, I'll let Toni go.
Okay.
No, I totally agree. I'm always saying if I have to write an outline, it's gonna make me break out in hives, and I don't want to write the story now because I know how it ends. Like there's no fun to
Not break out in hives.
it.
No, that's why I like to write at least a light outline, just because I want to know where it's going. But I have totally just said, okay, this is what the story is going to be about, and then I start writing. But now I have a book that I'm about to start working on now, and I really want to make sure that the time hacks are just right. So I'm doing somewhat of a more rigid timeline, or outline with this one. But for my regular contemporary fiction, I'm not as rigid with it. So I think like both of you are saying, it just kind of depends on the book that you're writing.
Yeah.
So, when your people, when they exercise their faith or when their faith is part of their decision making, how do you decide to put that in? Like, do you have them attending church and then do you, like some books are very church based, some Christian fiction books, like the whole thing is in church or after church or
Yeah, they're
it's
always in church.
church related, but some are just faith related. So how would you describe yours? Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
Okay. Hmm.
They don't always go to church, but there's definitely prayers. There's definitely seeking God's wisdom. Um, they're, that they're Christians, like from
Hmm.
every little thing, whether it's because, they're reading the Bible somewhere, or they're seeking God, or they're praying, or asking for wisdom, or attending church. Like it's through the whole book. It's whatever fits the characters and the story, is usually how I get it. So if you have someone who's not a believer, but by the end they are, then I'm gonna have, some kind of conversion moment, whether it happens in a church or, you know, between two friends, whatever fits that person. And then sometimes there's not a single church scene at all, but you still know that they are Christians and they've had, doubts with their faith or whatever the case may be.
It sounds like a little bit of a departure. I remember Christian fiction used to be very rigid.
It used to be very
The
churchy
characters
too.
are, yes, the
Mhm.
characters were only allowed to do this, or this. They're not
Mhm.
allowed to cuss. They're not allowed to go to the
They
club.
don't
They're not
have
allowed to do
sex.
anything. Yeah, they're not allowed to have sex. There's none at all. They can only go to church or talk about church.
Yeah, they
But
can't
I
even think
think
about sex.
yeah. I think as years have gone by,
It's less rigid.
people have kind of loosened up a little bit when it comes to Christian fiction.
They have, because it used to be extremely churchy. Like in the early days of Christian fiction, it was much more churchy.
Yeah, I think people want more, authenticity these days. So they want to see
Mhm.
the struggles that people have. And I think that's one of the beauties of being able to write like all different characters, um, with different faith backgrounds is to show like whatever struggles they have. Um, I've had characters who, were alcoholics, um,
Hmm.
non-believers, like whatever the case may be. And through it all, like you get to show God's grace, and then show how people handle, being a new creation.
Yeah, the earlier books also used to, and I'm a PK, so I give myself license to critique. But they used to have people like sitting around quoting scriptures, and I'm like, who actually does this? I don't know any people that just sit around and do that. But a lot of the earlier books, they were very, very churchy. I'm glad that they've allowed Christians to be humans,
Right.
and not like Bible robots, you know.
Right. We're
Uh,
imperfect people
yes,
Exactly.
who strive for perfection.
yes,
Yeah,
and that's what we should be doing as believers. That's what we should be doing. So, now you said this was which one was this? Did you say this was part of a series
I did. Yes.
around that love? So, what was the first book? You said this was the second book.
Yes, the first book's called The Love Script. So it was a fake dating um book. So the hero's a Hollywood actor. He's Christian, and he's like known for his faith. And paparazzi snaps a photo with him and a hairstylist, and it looks inappropriate, so they fake date to save his reputation. So it was a lot of fun to write.
Okay, now do you have a copy of that one handy that you can show us?
Not
No.
within reach.
Okay. Okay. Well, I wanted people to know. So the first book was called, say the
The
name
love
again,
script.
The
The
Love
first book's
Script.
the love script. Yes.
Okay, and the second one is A Run at Love.
Yes.
And then is there a third? Is there going to be a book three?
Yes. Book three is the final book. It's called The Nature of Love, and that one comes out in February. So I don't have any copies of that yet, but it's already available for pre-order.
Oh,
Why did you
okay.
decide to make it the final? You don't want to keep the series going?
It was mostly because of that's how I had the contract
I
with the
see.
publisher.
Oh, okay.
So
Thought you were going to
who's your
be like
publisher?
James Patterson and just say, okay, I'm killing Alex Cross off. I'm tired of doing Alex Cross.
Yeah, who's your publisher, Tony?
I'm published by Bethany House.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah, Bethany House is like they do a lot of Christian, contemporary Christian. I think they do historical too, don't
Yeah,
they?
they do.
Okay. Yeah, they've been around a while.
Yeah,
So did you do any of your books indie? Did you indie publish any of them?
I did. I started off indie. So I consider myself more like a hybrid going back and forth between the two. But no, a lot of my books were indie published. And then in 2020, I signed with Bethany House and started publishing with them as well.
So you
Okay.
kind of been on both sides of the spectrum, independent as well as traditional.
Yes.
And I've had this conversation before, and I tell people all the time that when you're trying to choose between independent and traditional publishing, it really depends on you. It really depends on are you going to have time for this? Are you going to be able to make deadlines? Because if you're going to be traditional, you have specific deadlines that you have to meet.
Right.
And I don't think everybody's ready for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Tony, we're at the end of our interview time. So if you can hold your book up again, the latest one, so people can see A Run at Love, and the book is available wherever books are sold, I believe, and it will be in Target as well.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that and the exposure and all of your writing, all of your books and your writing career. Congratulations on all of that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
Well, you have a great night. Thank you for everything you're doing. I did put your link in the chat for anybody who wants to support these books. Just go to and what is that? books2read.com/u/ okay, then it's like a bit.ly link after that. Just look in the chat.
yeah.
And click on the books to read link so you can find these books.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have a great night.
You
Have a
too.
great night.